Hello guys, welcome to my presentation. My name is Vanessa Torres and I will be doing my pioneer presentation on John B. Watson, who is also known as the father of the psychological school of behaviorism. His theory focused on behaviorism, Watson's early life. Watson was born on January 9th, 1878 and died on September 25th, 1958. He was born and raised in South Carolina. He was the fourth of six children. His parents were Emma Watson and Pickens Watson. It was said that Watson was raised mainly by his mother, Emma, who was said to be a strict religious mother. His father, Pickens, abandoned him when Watson was 13 years old. With his father abandoning them, it really affected John B. Watson as a teen. During his early teen years, Watson was said to be a poor academic learner with disciplinary issues. He did not care much about his grades or about school, and it was also said that he was arrested a couple of times because of his behavior issues. Watson's education. However, even after his behavior issues and him being a poor academic learner, I also read as I was doing research that because of his mother's connections, he was able to attend Furman University in 1894, where he received his master's degree. He then attended the University of Chicago, where he received his PhD in psychology in 1903. He began to develop his behaviorist theories at the University of Chicago. He then taught at Johns Hopkins University in 1908 through 1920. He was asked to leave due to his affair with Rosalie, which was his second wife, who I will talk about in my next slide. Watson's marriage. His first wife was Mary Eakins Watson. Here is a picture of them during their wedding. He married her from 1901 through 1920. With Mary, he had two children, Mary and John Watson. They divorced due to Watson's affair with Rosalie Rayner, who was his second wife. They were married from 1921 to 1935. With Rosalie, he had two children as well, which were Williams and James Watson. Here is a picture of them as well. With Rosalie, he did the little Albert experiment, which I will also discuss in my presentation. Rosalie died according to having contracted dysentery from eating tainted fruit. Some of Watson's famous achievement publications and awards are listed here on this slide. In 1915, he was president of the American Psychologists Association. In 1919, he published Psychology from the Standpoint of a Behaviorist. In 1925, he published Behaviorism. In 1928, he published Psychological Care of Infant and Child, which was one of his most famous publications. And in 1957, he received the APA's Award for Distinguished Scientific Contributions. The Little Albert Experiment, which was his famous experiment that made him famous, was an experiment where he wanted to demonstrate that a child could be conditioned to fear a previously neutral stimulus. In the experiment, it involved a baby named Little Albert and objects such as animals like a rat, dog, monkey, and a rabbit. So first, they allowed the baby to play with the animals with no fear. The baby enjoyed touching them and playing with them. Then they paired the white rat with a loud noise. The reason they paired the white rat was because he seemed to enjoy playing more with the white rat than with the other animals. So with them pairing the white rat with a loud noise. It led the child to become afraid of rats and white furry objects, which is how he tested his experiment. Here I have provided a YouTube link that explains the little Albert experiment.
This is the footage of a controversial 1920s experiment on a baby known as Little Albert, conducted by psychologist John B. Watson. The purpose of the experiment was to show that a normal 9-month-old infant could be conditioned to have a phobia of something he wasn't scared of before. Firstly, Watson presented Little Albert with objects that the baby wasn't afraid of, objects that Albert initially liked. A monkey, a dog, a rabbit, and finally a white rat. Albert particularly liked the white rat. In all of these clips, notice Albert's positive reactions. Now in these clips is where the conditioning starts. Each time Albert tried to touch the white rat, a loud iron rod was struck that would upset him. Notice how Albert starts to cry when he tries to touch the rat. Albert was then shown a rabbit, but this time he immediately begins to cry and attempts to crawl away from it. He then has a negative reaction when a dog is brought in. And then little Albert is agitated when a seal fur coat is brought in. And then Watson wears a furry Santa Claus mask, which invokes an extremely negative response.
So that was a bit of how Watson did his experiment. Pioneers who influenced Watson. The main pioneer that influenced Watson was Pavlov. Most of us are aware of who he is, but if you are not, in his experiment, he tested conditioned reflex. He was known for the dog experiment. In the experiment, he caused the dog to salivate at the sound of a tone by pairing the sound with food. Watson decided to test Pavlov's theory to human behavior by doing the little Albert experiment. Watson's late life to death. He died at the age of 80 from cirrhosis of the liver. After his son's death, he became an alcoholic, which is said to be the reason that he died from cirrhosis. Before his death, he received an award for the American Psychological Association. The importance of why teachers should be familiar with Watson's work. Well, according to research, he believed strongly that a child's development is the factor that shapes behaviors over their genetic makeup or natural temperament. Watson studied how emotions affect behaviors and determines action. And most of us agree with that emotions affect behaviors and determines actions. You can be having a good day and then something happens and it just ruins your whole day. And that happens to children as well. So because of that, as educators, it is important for us to understand the reason a child behaves the way they do. For us that are currently working in a classroom, we know that there are times that children come upset or come with behavior issues. But as educators, we don't know what they go through outside of school. which is why we must be understanding and be there for them. Know that they have someone who they can count on and trust, and that loves them. For more information about Watson, I have provided some sources here. And that is it. Thank you.